this husband and wife, they had a tradition every Sunday. Every Sunday they get up early and go to Mass. After Mass, they stop at the grocery store, buy a dozen of donuts, a Sunday paper. They would go home and turn on some coffee. They sit around the kitchen table, drinking coffee, eating donuts, reading the Sunday paper, commenting on various articles to each other that they would be reading. This one Sunday, they followed through with their ritual there at the kitchen table, drinking coffee, eating donuts, reading the Sunday paper. And the husband said to the wife, "Hey, look, honey, right here in the lifestyle section, there's a very interesting article. You're going to have to read this article. It says that women talk twice as much as men." He said, now, according to this research, they say that women speak 30,000 words a day, and a man speaks only 15,000 words a day. And the wife looked at the husband, and she said, because women have to repeat everything they say to a man. And the husband looked at the wife and said, "What?" Now that turns out to be the key point of today's gospel reading. The gospel comes at the 18th chapter of Luke, verses 9 to 14. It doesn't matter how many words you speak in the course of a day, 30,000 words, 15,000 words of 5. What's important is what you say with the words you speak in the course of a day. Now, in today's gospel reading we're going to take a look at, Jesus is going to address a certain group of people that he wants to hear this parable. Let's take a look at verse 9 out of the 18th chapter of Luke. It says, Jesus addressed this parable to those who are convinced of their own righteousness and despise everyone else. You see, Jesus wants to change the style of behavior of a certain group of people. What group of people? Right there. Those who are convinced of their own righteousness, convinced. And they despise everyone else. They held everyone else in contempt. And Jesus rightly and correctly gathers those who possess this type of behavior, thinking I'm better than everyone else, that he wants to change those who say that everyone else is bad and I'm perfect. Let's take a look at verse 10, 11, and 12 to what Jesus has to say. Now, two people went up to the temple area to pray. One was the Pharisee, the other was a tax collector. The Pharisee took up his position and spoke this prayer to himself, "Oh God, I thank you I'm not like the rest of humanity, greedy, dishonest, adulterous, even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and I pay tithes on my whole income." What is the Pharisee saying to God? What he's saying to God is, God, you should drop to your knees right now and thank yourself for making me. Because unlike me, everyone else is greedy, everyone else is dishonest, everyone else is adulterous, everyone else doesn't pay tithes on their income, but I do it all. I don't do any of those things, and I report my entire income. Was Jesus satisfied with that? Was Jesus happy with the thought of the Pharisee? Well, you're probably saying no, because you'd be correct. No, he wasn't happy with the way the Pharisee was conducting himself. This doesn't make Jesus happy. To believe you're self-righteous and everyone else is wrong and you're perfect. Let's take a look at what happens in verse 13 and the first half of the 14th verse of the 18th chapter of Luke. Now there it is, but the tax collector, who's also standing right there, stood off at a distance and would not even raise his eyes to heaven, but he beat his breast and prayed, "Oh God, be merciful to me, a sinner." I tell you, the latter went home justified. That's the tax collector, not the former. The former is the Pharisee. You see, the tax collector was what? He was humble. Now, back in biblical days, people did not like the tax collector. It's not that they were bad people, it's just they collected your taxes. And so you had to turn so much of your money over to them to pay for your belongings and what your assets. So people weren't excited about going down to see the tax collector. There might still be some of that today. Because the tax collector gets a little percentage of what they receive from your taxes, and that makes everyone mad. But the tax collectors were good people. This tax collector was a good guy. And what makes him so good? You know, when we're little kids, we are taught what? If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. Now, that was some great advice when we're little, but when we get older, we lose that advice. And in today's society with with Instagram and Twitter and emails and all kind of different ways to communicate with someone, we should remember that saying. What's getting people in trouble all the time? What are you always defending sometimes? It's what you typed on that email or the text you sent to someone when you were upset, or you thought to someone about someone else. And guess what? That's going back to them. And then you got to run around the rest of the day, the rest of the week, trying to rectify what you decided to say when you decided to share your negative thought about someone else to someone else. Instead of remembering, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. If we live that as we turn on a computer or open up our phones to a text message, maybe we would send half as many texts. Because we would say to ourselves, no, I'm not going to send it. Because it's not good. I might look like the Pharisee. I might be actually allowing other people to interpret that I am better than everyone else. I'm kind of going to wrap up the homily right there because this is one of the clearest gospel messages we've had in a long time, and I'm worried about crossing that 15,000 word threshold. I don't want to get anywhere near the 30,000 words. But the message is pretty clear. Not a message not only for today. It's not a message you want to hear and go home and do your best to live it for today, but it is a message you want to live today, tomorrow, and the rest of your lives. The message is wrapped up in that idea. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. If you don't have anything good to say, don't type it. If you don't have anything good to say about someone else, don't text it. Keep yourself out of trouble. Say to yourself, it is not worth it. Why would I do it? You see, Jesus was upset with the Pharisee because he did what? He believed in his own self-righteousness and held everyone else in contempt, despised everyone else. They're not as good as me, and since they're not, I have a right to say what I want to say. The truth of the matter is really this, and this is what you want to hold on to for today and the rest of your life. It doesn't matter how many words you speak in the course of a day. What's important is what you say with the words you speak. Are your words cunning or kind? Do they compliment or are they condemnatory? It doesn't matter how many words you speak. What's important is what you say with the words you speak in any given day.